Look, our information is that the sanctions are working and we will be doing more, but we also need to look at full implementation. I mean, what Russia is being deprived of is both the finance and also the technologies to reinvent their war machine, and they are having problems on the battlefield. We have to make sure that they don't find ways around our sanctions, and I make the point repeatedly that the deeper our sanctions, the more impactful they are, the more Russia will look for those ways, whether it's through other countries or different bank accounts, to circumvent. So we had very good discussions this morning with our US, UK colleagues, with the financial system, to see where could we focus our attention. We have a lot of work going on, but do we need to focus in particular areas that are problematic, and that requires us to share information and intelligence. But to your point about sanctions, sanctions are effective particularly over time. Europe has rolled out 10 packages of sanctions. We will have another package. My job is to make sure that they are implemented effectively. And what's been very, very important is our work with our counterparts, US, UK, Japan, Canada, because collectively that effort is having a very significant effect. But I don't underestimate the efforts being made by Russia and some of their friends to circumvent
so
our
let me
work.
bring you up on that point, circumvention. Is the Commission actually considering penalties on countries that help Russia evade sanctions?
Well, we're changing our legislation to look at individuals who are involved in sanction circumvention, that would be a crime. So certainly when it comes to pinpointing people or entities that are breaking the law, as we would see it, there is action will be taken in that regard. And we do share information, as the US does with us and the UK. You know, sanctions are an important weapon, if you like, in a war where we are not involved in the weapons part of it. So it is really important that we show strong solidarity with Ukraine, that every time we have a sanctions package, we also work with the financial industry and others in terms of guidelines so that we implement effectively. And indeed, the discussion around de-risking is also a problem in some cases. So it's a work in progress, and it's only work that will be effective with our partners doing it together.
And just to bring it back to the coordination with the partners, what partners are you speaking with, and to what extent do you feel like they are happy to take on the template of EU sanctions and apply it to their own model?
Well, if you look at, we're working with the US, the UK, Canada, Japan, etc. And clearly we all have very different jurisdictions, different ways of doing this, and where at all possible we coordinate, I think, very effectively, and we are in constant contact with one another. I mean, the US system is quite different than Europe. So, for example, we have 27 member states. They each are responsible for implementation, and they have their own systems internally. But my role is to make sure that the 27 work in a cohesive way. Some member states have stronger systems than others, but we're helping those that don't have those systems to build them, to build the intelligence, and to get the help that they need. If you look at the US system, OFAC exists. It's been around for a long time, but we can then get support from our US colleagues when it comes to intelligence, and indeed also from our UK counterparts. And one of the things that we discussed this morning in a very important meeting on sanctions was there's a lot of activity, really a lot of strong activity. We want to make sure that all of it is effective, because there are limited resources both in the financial system and indeed in our own systems, and we want to try and target those areas where we know there are problems. But again, don't underestimate the, I suppose, the efforts that Russia will make with its pals globally to get around our sanctions. But they're affecting the Russian economy, they're affecting the Russian war machine, and I think it's around dual-use goods in particular that we need to focus our attention.
Yeah, and I think also it was notable that in the IMF actually forecast for Russia, they're saying that the Russian economy is forecasted to grow 7% lower than what it would have been pre the war. Let me just ask you, given your role as also Commissioner for Financial Services, what role the financial services industry will play in implementing these types of sanctions, and how instrumental are they?
Look, the financial system is crucial because a lot of our sanctions involve the financial system and making sure that those who are supportive of the Russian illegal invasion don't profit from that support. And I have to say from the very outset, I found that the financial system wanted to do everything it could, including going further than we asked. And we had to look at that because that might have unintended consequences. However, it's true that the financial system also needs constant guidelines and support as new ways around our sanctions are
not
invented.
all banks have fully withdrawn from Russia, though.
That's true. Not all banks have, but many have done that. So I think we have to look at where those who have removed themselves from Russia, and indeed corporates, non-financial corporates, have removed themselves from Russia. Our key focus now, at what I think is a critical point in this horrible war, is that firstly we stand strongly with Ukraine. And I think, you know, even as we speak to one another in these cozy settings, remember that there are those who are dying in the battlefield, and they did not invite this upon themselves. So the very least we can do, and certainly that's the message I get also from corporates and the financial system, is work hard to implement our sanctions fully and effectively.